There's one member that's not here yet. And sure they will catch up. 1 second. Okay, Lauren, who do we have? Michelle Danton?
Yes. She will be giving an overview of the capital budget, including debt service, as well as the school's capital budget today.
Okay. Fantastic. Why don't we get started?
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. The capital debt service and the Baltimore County Public Schools capital budget package is divided into 3 sections. Section A is a summary of the FY 2023 capital budget and county debt and debt service. Section B contains related topics for discussion, and Section C is the BCPS capital budget analysis, which contains topics for discussion specific to BCPS. Can you still see me because my screen just went away?
You can see you.
Okay, I don't know what happened, but I'll just keep going. Turning to Section A, the proposed FY 2023 capital budget for consolidated public improvements totals $328 million. FY 2023 represents the second year of the capital biennial cycle when no new bond funds are appropriated. The FY 2023 capital budget is larger than average for an off year due to the inclusion of a significant amount of general fund pay-go. The 2 pie charts on page A1 show the breakout of the budget among the sources of funding and among the classifications. 2/3 of the FY 2023 budget is supported by general funds pay-go, followed by state funding at 16% and debt premium at 9%. Funding for schools and buildings projects together account for over half of the total CPI project appropriations, and funding for various park and recreation and community improvements projects represent 1/4 of the appropriations, with the remaining FY 2023 capital budget representing various roads, community college, refuse, waterways, bridges, storm drains, and land preservation projects. And sustainability projects, buildings projects, which includes the countywide Enhanced Productivity Through Technology project, and several community improvements projects are presented in more detail in Section B of this analysis. Pages A2 through A5 provide highlights of the projects funded in the FY 2023 capital budget. Pages A6 through A7 summarize the total 6-year capital program for CPI projects and funding sources. The program totals over $1.5 billion and is nearly 2/3 funded by general obligation bonds, with more than half of those bonds earmarked for school projects. Pages A7 through A13 show county debt and debt service. The proposed FY 2023 budget for general fund debt service totals $226.4 million, an increase of $9 million over the FY 2022 appropriation. The county remains in compliance with the Spending Affordability Committee's total debt and debt service guidelines. Turning to Section B, for fiscal year 2023, there are numerous initiatives that reflect discretionary, non-recurring use of general funds in the form of projects funded with a record $214 million in pay-go contributions to the capital budget. And the available details of those capital projects are provided beginning on page B1 of this analysis. And topics for discussion begin on page B2. Turning to Section C, the proposed FY 2023 capital budget for Baltimore County Public Schools totals $96.6 million. And that project funding for 2023 includes security vestibules and cameras, Red House Run and Scotts Branch Elementary replacement projects, Dundalk Solars Point Tech Addition, design for the Delaney and Towson High replacement projects, Pine Grove Middle Addition, Northeast and Southeast area high schools for solutions to overcrowding, pre-K expansion, Patapsco High addition design, and Northwest Area Career Technical Education School. The new Rossville Elementary School is under construction with completion for the upcoming school year. Red House Run, Summit Park, Bedford Elementary School replacements, and the new Nottingham Site Middle are under construction and anticipated for completion in 2024. Completion of the Pine Grove Middle Addition is anticipated for 2025, and completion of the Lansdowne High School replacement is anticipated for 2026. A total of nearly $25 million in FY 2023 state school construction funding has been approved by the Interagency Commission on School Construction for Baltimore County. This amount excludes Built to Learn Act funding, with multiple county school projects having been approved or anticipated to receive Built to Learn Act funding to date. And Baltimore County is also slated to receive other sources of state school construction funding in 2023, including an $80 million state capital funding grant. Beginning on page C5 of the analysis, we have identified capital issues specific to Baltimore County Public Schools that Baltimore County Public Schools and the administration can address. And with that, I will turn this discussion over. Thank you.
Michelle, we thank you so much for your very thorough analysis. Appreciate it very much. Any questions from the member? Hearing none, yes, at this point, we will turn to you, Dr. Williams. Welcome, sir. Good to see you.
Mr. Chairman, the first part of the package is more general government questions.
Okay.
I'd like to start there, and then we'll switch over to school capital, and then roll into the school operating budget.
Excellent idea. And
Thank you, sir.
I'm always in good company and following your lead.
So today we have multiple directors and deputy directors available for questions. I'm going to handle 1 through 3. Then we're going to shift to Rob O'Connor for number 4, Dave Likens and Jen Iosa for 5, Laura Riley for 6, Deb Schindel for 7, Amy Mante for 8, and then we'll finish up with Deb Schindel on number 9.
Sounds great. Ed, why don't you handle 1 through 3?
Sounds good. Thank you. So the first question is on my IPASS and school funding. And the My IPASS plan is a 15-year strategic plan that provides a roadmap for equitable prioritizing and implementing of public school facilities countywide. The 15-year recommendation takes into consideration planned available funding from the county and the state. The county contribution is based on a $200 million bond referenda continuing throughout the duration of My IPASS. And the state contribution is based on the continued average state funding of $40 million through the state's annual capital program and the $420 million commitment through the Built to Learn program. Of course, these funding levels will not fund all the needs of BCPS, and the county executive has stated his commitment to raise the bar through attempts to get additional funding and made school construction his #1 priority in Annapolis this year. And by reaching out to the governor and General Assembly leaders, the county was able to secure an additional $80 million that Michelle had referenced this year that will be used to accelerate and/or enhance My IPASS projects. So as far as overcrowding, Canyon Design did include approved residential development that has not been built when developing the My IPASS plan. In the event that unexpected overcrowding does occur, we will review it with our BCPS partners and determine the appropriate path forward. And finally, the schools that have been approved for Built to Learn funding and those we anticipate receiving funding for are identified on page C8 of your package. With approval of the FY23 capital budget, the full county funding component for all projects except Delaney and Towson will be in place. And there is funding programmed in FY24 that is available for the construction of those 2 high school projects. Any questions on My IPASS funding?
Hearing none.
Okay, I'll move on to the second question related to debt premium. So debt premium is a function of market demands when we go out to issue bonds, and the county has the option of using the bond premium to fund capital projects, to pay interest, or resize the amount of the bond sale. The county has chosen to use the bond premium of $48.1 million from the March 2022 issuance to pay interest of $20 million over the next 2 years, and the balance is currently programmed in the FY23 capital budget request, and that total is $28.1 million. Using the premium to pay interest helps the county to maintain debt service levels, the debt service to revenue ratio below 9.5% guideline. And using the premium for capital projects lowers the amount of the next bond issuance. The rating agencies applaud the county for continuously maintaining a substantial amount of PAYGO in the capital budget, which maintains our ability to retain the 3 AAA ratings. And is there any questions on bond premium?
Questions, comments?
Okay, so I'll move on to equipment financing. You recall the council approved an equipment financing package not long ago. The equipment purchasing has already begun. On May 10th, 2022, the county paid out $12,567,000, primarily for the down payment of the purchase of fire equipment, which includes pumpers, trucks, and medics. We always move quickly on these purchases since they take longer for the manufacturers to build. During fiscal year 2023, we will focus on large equipment in DPWT, like medium duty dump trucks, to ensure our fleet is ready for winter snow plowing. We'll also be focusing on landfill equipment and backhoes. And OIT will be moving forward with their replacement plans and tech needs. And of course, we'll be moving forward with the take-home car initiative for the police department. All departmental equipment purchases will proceed with requests from the department, followed by a review and approval by the Standards and Specifications Committee to ensure that the equipment complies with the department's needs and with EOM and VOM maintenance requirements. And if there's no further questions, I'll turn it over to Rob O'Connor.
Rob?
Okay, let's make sure there's no other questions. Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the council. The FY23 tech fund request for the Office of Information Technology totals $10,231,000, of which $1 million is a contingency line. The FY23 capital tech fund capital request include projects such as replacement of our current jail management system, digitization of county records, the replacement of the county's health record system, continuation of our broadband build out for county optical network, cybersecurity investments, replacing a end of life fire incident reporting system, and also replacing our web content platform, which is also going end of life as well. Questions were from the auditors were presented on current initiatives as well. Current major initiatives obviously include our current RSI tax implementation, the move to a new tax system, and of course the one you've also heard of is our move to Workday to replace our ERP system. Those are the 2 largest out of the ongoing projects for OIT from FY22. Both of those projects are going live within the next 45 to 60 days, on target and on time. There was also a request to give progress to date on installing broadband for additional county locations that receive broadband. The county has connected well over 90+% of the county schools. We are connected to all but 1 current library. All police precincts are connected. Many of the county's career fire stations and several actually volunteer fire stations are on the county optical network. We continue to build out the broadband network where it is fiscally responsible to do so. I will say, though, that all county facilities are connected to broadband, whether it is county-owned or leased broadband through a third party. The broadband, Baltimore County Optical Network is one of the county's, I would say, best investment over the years, with an annual savings of nearly $3 million. and currently projecting towards within the next 12 to 18 months of a revenue of $4 million a year. It's something I think the county should be very proud that we have developed and built out. There was another question from auditors, whether and what extent costs being paid out on the tech fund represents recurring budgetary obligations. Most to all tech fund obligation projects do have recurring costs, whether it is physical maintenance like any other capital project would have for a facility or a piece of equipment, or it is licensing maintenance for future years for software usage. So that is correct. The Office of Information Technology continues to be, and hopefully for many years will be, the centralized IT department for the entire county. So all budgetary IT licensing and costs do fall under OIT each year. They are not spread across other agencies.
Thank you very much, Rob. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none. Mr.
Mr. Chair, we'll move on to Dave Likens and Jen Iosa for sustainability.
Good afternoon, Chairman Jones, members of the council. Thank you for having us today. We got several questions listed. Our first question is on midge control in Back River. Obviously, we have a very successful midge program that we've executed this year. It's our testing, our pre-testing and our post-testing after spraying has given us great results. This is for next year. So the $1.5 million is $1.2 million, I'm sorry, is based on the fact that each spray from the helicopter costs $250,000. So we're doing 5 to 6 sprays each year, starting in the spring, about every 3 or 4 weeks from, let's say, March before they've emerged. We want to get them before they start through September. So the total cost is split with the state. So they're paying approximately $1.2 million a year also. So that's proposed for next year for another 5 or 6 applications, depending upon the severity of the infestation. Our second program is questions about our 1,000 street trees. As you know, we have a very successful Operation Retree Baltimore County program where we're putting street trees in underserved communities. The county executive was so impressed with that he asked me if we could possibly plant another 1,000 street trees. As part of our budget this year, our operating budget, we asked for an additional 3 members of our forestry program to work on this specifically, our Operation Retree and urban tree programs. So he wanted to know if we could plant even more. So this is separate and distinct from our our Operation Retree program. The state has basically given us monies. The next one, Chesapeake Bay Urban Trust. Well, let me stop back. The 1,000 street trees, Baltimore County Public Works cuts down trees in a street tree program every year. And those trees are supposed to be replaced. We rely upon the homeowners to replace those trees. They don't always do that. So part of this 1,000 street trees would be to go back and offer all of those people that had street trees cut down on their property to offer to go back and plant another street tree on their property for them, and for other programs in the county where trees are cut down. As you know, many places, even here in Towson, street trees are cut down and not always replaced. So with this money and these 1,000 street trees, we would go around and try to replace them wherever we could throughout the county. The third program is sort of related to that. It's the Chesapeake Bay Trust Urban Tree Program. The state has a program that passed 2 years ago to increase our annual coverage to place another 5 million trees between now and 2030 in the state of Maryland. That's throughout the entire state. As part of those 5 million trees, the state suggested that 500,000 of those trees should be in underserved communities. And they tasked the Chesapeake Bay Trust Program with getting those 500,000 trees planted, and they gave them $10 million to distribute to counties and other municipalities to help with planting those trees. We applied for an urban tree grant from the Chesapeake Bay Trust for $1 million to try to get some of that money to work with our Operation Retree program. We have $1.5 million from ARP money, additional money to carry us through the Operation Retreat program through the end of 2024. Do you have any questions on any of those items?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman Topin.
Thank you. Mr. Likens, on those 1,000 street trees, can we plant them along State Highway? And the reason I ask is because many of our commercial centers, our commercial corridors are on the streets that emanate from the city center and radiate throughout the county.
Great question.
So
So I know that the only place that I've really started looking at with my team is in the Towson area at the moment. And I know from talking to Saul Pass, who's the county's arborist who works for DPW, he has indicated to me that we are now responsible for the York Road corridor and what State Highway would have had to do along the York Road corridor. For instance, you might know just north of the circle on Delaney Valley Road, there was a whole string of sycamore trees that were cut down last winter that were the responsibility of the State Highway Administration. But now they've turned all the York Road corridor over to us so that we're responsible for the maintenance of those trees and the replacement of those trees. I don't know about any other, for instance, Reisterstown Road or some other state road, but it makes sense that we would get those too.
yes, and I would also ask if possible to see if we can focus on the Inner Beltway communities, Reisterstown Road, Inner Beltway, Liberty Road, Inner Beltway, actually throughout the county. You know, because they all eventually turn into our aging commercial corridors, and maybe the trees will be the beginning of the spark that gives our aging commercial corridors new life.
Absolutely, and that's, I think, the county executive's intention here. And these, again, are balled and burlap, 6 to 10 foot trees, 2-inch in caliber usually. We're trying to replace ones that have already been missing. This isn't a, you know, go look for new, but any place that one was previously taken out, that's what we're looking for. But you run into a variety of situations with different size pits and different size locations where we can actually put the trees. But we will look everywhere we can.
Yeah, in the more urbanized areas, of course, the pits are smaller, and I don't know if there's special species that grow with the roots pointing straight down rather than, you know, those that kind of push up the sidewalk as they mature.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's different size trees for different size pits. Some of the pits we can reuse and go in and take out the stumps that are there. Some of them will need to be enlarged. We have a wide selection of trees. Some of them you don't want to, we had a constant complaint from commercial corridors because the tree grows up and blocks the sign, right? So the restaurant, the business there is upset. So we're looking at different types of trees. We're trying to plant all native trees, but we'll look at different sizes, different growth patterns, and work with the business communities to make sure that whatever we plant, they're going to want and want to take care of.
Can we not put in new trees? We can only replace trees that have been lost?
Well,
through
this
program?
particular effort was to try to replace trees that were lost or trees that we've cut down for various reasons. I have other urban programs that can put new in. So if you have a place that needs new, please let me know.
Right. And we're losing so many ash trees to that ash borer.
Yep.
So I think that, you know, it's always going to be a challenge to try to keep up with because that ash borer is so aggressive.
Yeah. In Baltimore County, we're fortunate that we only have maybe 15% of our street trees are ashes. Baltimore City, it's a much higher percentage. They're going to have a much tougher time. Not that we're not losing trees, but a lot of our ash trees are planted out in the forests. So you will see a preponderance, a lot more dead trees than you've seen in the past.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Likens.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, go right ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Director Likens and the county executive for the MIDGE program. Mr. Likens has persisted throughout the years when this was kind of in the past, the whole issue was kind of a political football between the governor and the county executive, and calmer minds have prevailed, and Director Likens and his team have put together a program that not only addresses the issue, but also he's built in a system to measure the success of the program, so we can determine whether this is money well spent or not. And I know it was a lot of work to get into partnership with the state folks to have them come in for half of the freight on this. And but the administration and Director Likens especially saw this through. And I know that there's a lot of people in the 7th District that live along the Back River watershed that certainly appreciate the effort, and I do as well. So like I said, I just want to take the opportunity to acknowledge the work on that.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all your contributions to helping us do that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, 1 second, Councilman Katz. Let's get Councilman Quirk in there.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. Just very briefly, Director Likens, as the county executive has commented as well, we're getting a lot of really positive feedback and a lot of really positive, emails and notes and phone calls about the tree program. And the contractors were great from my experience as well. The people that came in and did a lot of the work around the communities, very responsive, very good jobs. I mean, the trees that I've been seeing planted, fortunately with a lot of the rain that's been happening, they've been taking hold, and but job well done. And to your staff and the people that are helping you out that program, it's just, you see the immediate results. Unlike 98% of local government, with the tree program, you see the immediate results right in front of you, because obviously a lot of these capital projects take years and years. But yeah, A++ for everything you guys are doing there. It's a super, super nice thing to see. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Katz.
yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and also want to thank Mr. Likens for this program. I know it's been well received. My question really is, Dr. Williams, I've had a few public input meetings recently, and people have asked me about trees on school property. In one case, let's say, one case is Lutherville Elementary School. What process would people who want to donate trees or plant trees on any campus of the Board of Education, what process would they have to go through? Would the principals, yes, be enough, or what's the policy?
So thank you for that. If there's some desire, which we have had in the past, the group would simply work with the principal and the executive director to finalize any plans. We report that to the board. And because the board wants to know the partnerships that are happening. And so we have a rule that we follow, but I would just direct them to talk to the principal, or the PTA can step in and work with the principal to talk about those next steps.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Dr. Williams, I will say your staff has been a great partner with us in allowing us to come in and plant in a lot of the more rural areas, especially.
Thank you very much. Great partnership.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments? Who's next? Mr. Blade?
Jen Iosa.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you, members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Jen Iosa. I am the Chief Sustainability Officer working within the County Executive's Office, and I'm here to give you all some information about the fourth sustainability question related to electric vehicle charging infrastructure. We have requested $600,000 to begin building out the charging network capacity that would support a new initiative of this county executive. Back in October of 2021, the county executive approved an executive order that would begin transitioning the county government's passenger vehicle fleet to more fuel efficient vehicles, including hybrids and at least 10% electric vehicles. Electric vehicles, especially now, are proving to be very cost effective and carry lower costs associated with both fuel and maintenance over their lifetime. And so this request for fiscal year 23 would help us begin developing that charging network. And as we've started this work, one of the things that we've come to realize is that many of the county's properties are a bit older and may not have the electrical capacity to support some of these newer technologies and the greater electric load that a charging station would require. And so this request would allow us to do the electrical evaluations, upgrade electrical capacity at county-owned properties or garages that we have found suitable, and then pay for both the charging equipment as well as its installation and its networking so that we can monitor and track how it's being used and how it's performing. I would be happy to answer any questions that you or any members of the council might have on this request. Thank you.
Any questions from the member?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Councilman Mark.
It doesn't specifically concern this request, but this is the best time to ask the question. And I raised it a couple years ago. We as more and more consumers are purchasing electric cars, those who live in townhouse communities are dealing with the difficulty of charging them, of running out long hordes to parking pads, etc. Are we continuing to look at the building codes and how we can address this issue, which seems like it's going to increase over the next couple decades?
Yes, sir, Councilman Marks, we are looking at that very closely. So the initial work that has been done on this very issue was recently undertaken by our permits, approvals, and inspections, and our DPWT, the transportation part of that department, to look at how the county can approve a private charger crossing a public right-of-way. So we have gotten questions from current townhome community members who might like to install a charger but run the cord over the public right-of-way. So PAI and DPWT have developed an initial policy to allow for that to happen with a particular permit and maintenance agreement to protect safety and public access. We have also begun looking at opportunities to either require or encourage new development or substantial redevelopment of, say, commercial properties or multifamily dwellings to include, at the very least, the electrical capacity that would support these kinds of chargers. And then third, we are also trying to lead by example. So as the county itself is developing or renovating major properties, my group has been working with our property management colleagues and others to look at how we can integrate electric vehicle charging at our libraries, at our senior centers, or at other new or renovated county buildings. So we are trying to take a holistic approach to increasing the availability of charging capacity countywide.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Okay,
Mr. Chair, we'll move on then to senior centers with Director Laura Riley.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. This year's capital budget includes $3.8 million for senior center projects, including design for the new Jacksonville Senior Center, the Woodlawn Senior Center expansion, and a Parkville Senior Center parking reconfiguration. I was asked to provide more details about the new Jacksonville Center. Although design will be taking place, the feasibility study has given us a pretty good idea of what we'll be able to accomplish on the site. We'll be building a new building to the rear of the existing building. And what it will have that we did not have before, we had 5,400 square feet currently, and it will be approximately 13,000 square feet. When this center was built 10 years ago, it was designed to accommodate a membership of approximately 500. And that was based on what the current participation was at the time when we used to be at the old Nike missile base. Within several years, their membership grew to 2,000, and they outgrew their space almost immediately. So the new building will have a much larger multi-purpose room, allowing them to have social gatherings where right now they're limited to only 50 people, so they have to go off-site. They will have a large enough multi-purpose room to include pickleball courts, the infamous pickleball courts, a larger fitness room, an exercise classroom, several other classrooms, storage, which they now have completely outgrown and have to use a building on the exterior, as well as offices to accommodate a growing staff to go along with the larger building. The other, are there any questions about Jacksonville that I can answer?
Mr. Chairman.
yes, Councilman King.
Yeah, I really appreciate what's going to happen at Jacksonville. And have there been meetings with the executive committee at Jacksonville to explain the plans and to get the input from members of the senior center in general?
Yes, sir. Actually, we started talking with them probably 2 years ago when I took my position, and they started asking for more space. We had them conceptualize what that would look like for them. We've shown them the design plans that are current, and of course, those may be altered as we go further through the process, but we have met with the executive board to make sure that we're incorporating any needs that they believe that they have there. So they will continue to be part of the process.
Good, but they've asked me to meet with them to go over what it is that they need. So, okay, so I probably will, well, I don't know. I'll, as this happens, I'll let you know.
And we'll keep you informed when we plan to meet with them as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. The second question was about details on the Parkville Senior Center parking reconfiguration project. Where some of our centers have a problem with not enough parking, Parkville fortunately has enough. However, the accessibility is a major issue there. The handicap parking, because of the slope that comes off of the building and because of a playground and a hard surface court, is approximately 250 to 300 feet for those who have disabilities to reach the entrance to the building. So the reason this is probably going to cost so much is we may need to relocate some of the existing structures that are on the property in order to get those who have mobility issues closer to the entrance of the building. Any questions on that particular issue?
Nope.
Okay, and then plans for other major capital improvements to our senior centers. As I'm sure all of you know, many of our buildings are aging. We were fortunate to get a lot of old school buildings when they were surplus, but they're starting to show their age. So some major projects coming up will be primarily at the Ad East Senior Center, where we need to replace windows, upgrade our restrooms to be more accessible, and repointing the exterior of the building. That's a pretty major one. We're going to be installing security cameras at all of our senior centers, which is also a bit expensive, as well as replacing all of our fitness equipment. Some of our fitness centers are up to 14 years old, and we have not replaced some of that equipment. So we will be replacing and as well as building new fitness centers such as at Woodlawn. So other things that we're looking at are windows in other buildings, new canvas awnings over some of our older buildings, and some of the cosmetic work, flooring, painting. We really have gotten a good response from property management in understanding what some of our needs are to bring our buildings up to current standards. Not looking to add on to anything else just yet, but always looking at where the demands in the community are. As far as our growth areas, we've always considered in the future Honeygo and Owings Mills as areas that we may look to in the future, but nothing on the books right now.
Councilman Quirk?
Thank you, Chairman Jones. Just a brief kind of general question. First of all, we appreciate your work as always, Director Riley, and I know you did mention the word pickleball earlier, and other centers, do we have courts up as well? I mean, that's something that I hear about nonstop in Southwest Baltimore County. I'm sure a lot of council members hear that quite a bit. I see a lot of retirees live and breathe and sleep and eat pickleball. So I just pure curiosity is, do we have a lot of those courts around the county, or is that more specific to, I think it was Jacksonville, or just checking in generally on that question?
So we, we go with the trends, but we also try and make sure our space is multi-purpose. So some of our senior centers do have indoor gymnasiums that do have lines for pickleball. Here in our building, they have lined the downstairs gymnasium. So when they're not playing basketball, they're playing pickleball. So any of our centers that already have gymnasiums have them. We're including them in Jacksonville because it is one of the most popular activities. Some of our other centers like Seven Oaks, they have a relationship with the local recreation and parks and use their pickleball courts during the day when typically they're not being used for other uses. But at this stage, any new renovation, any new expansions, renovations, construction we're going to do will have pickleball. Woodlawn will have a large enough room that can hold 2 pickleball courts as well. We're making partnerships with anybody that's got pickleball courts to make sure people have access to them.
Thanks.
Sure. Unfortunately, Catonsville does not have a high enough ceiling for pickleball in their multi-purpose room. But Arbutus uses the rec center next door. So wherever we can, we try and make that relationship happen.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes, Councilman Moore.
speaking of Seven Oaks, when will the parking lot expansion occur?
I know this has been taking forever. The last I was told, and maybe Ms. Schindel can give us an update if there's anything new, but I was told September. So there have been delays, as I'm sure you're aware, with supply chain and workforce, but we are anticipating getting that done, getting it started at least this year. And I can tell you Seven Oaks has also come to me and asked for an addition because they heard other people were getting them. That is a very large center, very active center, but we're landlocked there now. We just can't grow anymore as far as a building. So if you hear of land or any partnerships we can do in Honeygo, let me know.
Yeah, we're kind of running out of land in Honeygo. So what has been the delay at Seven Oaks? I mean, we announced this 2 years ago.
We most certainly did. Is Deb Schindel still on?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. We worked very hard from the beginning to to develop 3 conceptual plans, working with both the school system, the rec and parks, and aging to kind of minimize, impact. When we worked with the board and very closely with the Board of Education, we kind of we came up with a conceptual plan during our meetings with aging and the school system to where it would not only benefit the senior center, but in after hours accommodating some of the needs of the school, because the school really owns the property that we needed to encroach upon. So we developed a very strong relationship that was a win-win. And then we had to go through full-blown design, which included stormwater management. And that when you deal with anything over 5,000 square feet of limited disturbance, it does take you 4 extra months for designing once you get into that design process. And then we now are finishing up design and going to go out to bid. Bid takes about 4 months. So we are still on track for September 1st for construction to start. And we're looking very forward to that. So thank you very much for your patience. I know it's been a long haul, but we've really had a lot of dialogue with the Board of Education to really try to meet both everyone's needs.
Okay, thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you, sir. Any additional questions, comments? Director Blade?
Yes, sir. Ms. Schindel, we'll leave you on the floor. There's the next two questions are related to general government buildings.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, members of the council, and thank you for having me to answer the questions on number 7. The proposed FY23 capital budget includes the $23.4 million under the new building, repair, renovation, and minor addition bulk projects. And I've been asked to speak on 2 of those projects that were listed. So I will take them one at a time. The Circuit Court Jury Assembly Room construction, which is scheduled approximately $2.5 million. We have been working very, very closely with the courts and the sheriff's office for many years. They, as you can imagine, in that building, jury assembly has been very tough, and they really have outgrown their space and needs to really have to be able to accommodate jury selection for all of the juries that are needed. So we are taking and renovating the old 911 area in the circuit court to create a more modern jury assembly area. This area will allow for multiple jury selections. So right now where they currently are, they can only do one at a time. This area in the basement will help us do multiple jury selections in a more effective and expedient manner. Property management and the court staff have currently been working with a consultant to develop what that space needs are for them. As you can imagine, they are requesting 3 basically flexible spaces that they can maybe hold 100 people in one, or open a wall and have 300 people if they need a large jury pool. So we're trying to create a very flexible space for them. And also making it really more modern and comfortable for the visitors who are in jury selection. And we're right now in doing full development of that construction documents. So we're designing it and putting together full documents for construction. And that it is estimated that our construction will start November 1st of this year. And then hopefully complete it in July 10th of 2023. So we're very excited about that project. Is there any questions that I can answer for you today on that?
Yes, Ms. Schindel. How many USB plugs will we have for charging up cell phones?
So it is funny you say that, but that is really a good question, because technology has grown, and when you're a customer and you're waiting and you're in that jury selection, you obviously want to be able to plug in. So we are talking to our circuit court staff to determine whether they want plugs in through the walls and opportunities in the furniture. So we are hoping to have multiple, because we understand everyone gets selected for jury selection right at some point, and how convenient it is. You're there all day, you need to charge your devices. So we are looking at multiple ways that folks can be accommodated in that way.
Fantastic. And I guess the only other, I'll just ask you and Rob O'Connor, you know, I remember us having these conversations with the jury, and I always thought to myself, you know, there has to be a better way. You know, you go to a restaurant and there's a wait. They take your cell phone number. They let you wander around the parking lot, sit in your car, whatever you want. They page you and tell you, come on in, your table's ready. I'm just wondering if there a better way besides sequestering people in a room for hours on end, as opposed to maybe a little more planning, a little more technology, let them go out and get some lunch in Towson, spend some money. When we need them, we'll page them and we'll give them 30 minutes to get back. I'm just it seems like that's a bridge too far, and I don't know.
Yes, so we've been talking with the, and that's a really good suggestion. We have been talking to obviously the judges. And so one of the things they have found, unfortunately, with COVID is that the way they've had to adapt for COVID is that they found a much more efficient manner so that they can get their juries selection chosen much faster and get in the courtroom. And so we're implementing some of those suggestions that they have and that they feel they need to operate in that matter to make sure that the jury selections are much quicker. And then I'm with you. One of the things we're going to try to provide for them is a vending machine area, because I know as a juror, I've been down there and you're like, oh, I wish I just could have a cup of coffee. We're hoping to accommodate that need so that when our citizens come in to do their jury duty and their civil duty, that it's the most accommodating and get them in and out as quick as possible. So we are having those conversations, and anything that we can incorporate in the design, we absolutely are taking into consideration.
Okay. Rob?
I would just say that obviously policy and procedures need to be changed prior to, implementing any type of technology. So that would come from the circuit court making a decision on that. But yeah, there are solutions out there, obviously, for what you're saying that would alert somebody on their cell phone. But I don't want to put technology before the process. So let's get the process figured out first. Then I'll come in and clean up.
No, I understand. I'm not gonna put anybody on the spot today. Believe me, we've had these conversations. Thank you, Deb.
You're welcome. The next project, real quickly, if I may, to talk briefly about the Loch Raven Elementary School. So we obviously, that is a building that the county has owned for many years. It is in need of a real strong makeover, to say the least. So there's money that was put in the FY23 for us to do an evaluation, a complete evaluation on that building. To determine what the needs really are. And so recently we took a contract to all of you earlier this month, for new architectural contracts. We are finishing up the execution of those contracts. So it'll be early June and July, that we choose one of those new architectural firms to work with us and the stakeholders to sit down and really do a complete evaluation of all the mechanical systems and the way the building functions, and does it really serve its purpose now, and do an evaluation to determine what it would take to really bring that building up to modern standards, meeting all ADA and needs of its current uses, and or make a decision to the cost of what it would be, and then make a decision whether a new building would be more appropriate in that community so that we can continue to serve that community. So that is our goal with this money, to kind of just do an evaluation of the building and make a determination or how to proceed.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
One question.
Go right ahead, Councilman Mark.
Oh, but if a new building would require removing it from the historic registry, correct?
I do need to look at that. If it is on the historic preservation, then yes, it would have to be removed from that. Maybe what we could, and again, we're just kind of, this is what we want to evaluate. Right. Does it make sense that keeping portion of it so that we have some historic value there? And obviously we would work with the Historic Society to make a determination of the best route and what would be required.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Blade?
Yes, sir. And moving on is community improvements, question number 8, and Amy Mante from the Department of Planning.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the County Council. I believe that we had 2 questions. One was about the farm and garden building at the Maryland Fairgrounds property, and the second one was about the Pikesville Armory. So I will share with you some information first about the building at the fairgrounds. The Maryland State Fair and Agricultural Society is a volunteer-led 501c3 that hosts some 2 million visitors a year. whose mission is to support, promote, educate, and showcase Maryland's #1 industry, agriculture. They've been at their current location for 144 years. The existing farm and garden building, which was dedicated in 1962, is obsolete. Maryland's Department of Agriculture is no longer able to utilize the building for their purposes, and Maryland's farmers from throughout the state have had Maryland's finest produce wilt in the extreme heat of summer, with the building having no HVAC and not being usable on a year-round basis. Therefore, the governor, the Secretary of Agriculture, Joe Bartenfelder, the state legislature, and County Executive Pashevsky have agreed to partner together to fully fund a new replacement farm and garden building in the same location as the existing farm and garden building, which will need to be demolished. The purpose of the new building is to better fulfill the mission of promoting, educating, and showcasing Maryland agriculture. The new building will provide space for Maryland agricultural education activities and initiatives, space for showcasing the best that Maryland has to offer, as well as much needed meeting space that could also provide rental income opportunities. By way of example, during the pandemic, they had to relocate the Baltimore County Health Department's testing and vaccination clinics from one building to another when the heat of summer became too great and the Cow Palace lacked air conditioning. There are some questions about the timeline, and the information that we were given about that was that generally speaking, they would like to demo the old building and build the new as soon as possible, of course. That being said, they do recognize that the final design, architectural drawings, engineering, permitting, demo, and construction will take time, especially given current supply chain issues. The earliest that the demo would begin would be after this year's Maryland State Fair, which ends on Sunday, September 11th. So the soonest that it would begin would be after that, probably early October.
Okay, any questions or comments? All right, moving right along.
All right, so the second question was, we were asked to provide details on the Pikesville Armory project. So the information that I have is that after a long delay by the state, project activity has begun on the property. The Pikesville Armory Foundation is the entity that is expected to take ownership and control from the state. The Armory Foundation's land planning and design firm, Mahan Reichel, has begun its concept design work. Last month, the Pikesville Armory Foundation obtained a right of entry, which enables Mahan Reichel to begin studies and analysis of the grounds and buildings. Mahan Reichel and their subcontractors have been on the property to begin site environmental and remediation assessments. The Pikesville Armory Foundation and the county are in the process of executing a grant agreement for the FY22 allotment. Initially, these funds will cover the concept and schematic drawings, a traffic impact study, site surveys, subsurface utility exploration, and other pre-development work. This will enable the engineers and architects to develop construction documents for further work on the buildings and property. Funds are available for the contractor, Mahan Reichel, to conduct studies on the site and develop concept plans for the whole site. The remaining funds from the FY22 allotment will be used for project administration, site remediation, engineering, design, and some initial construction on the Armory Park portion on the Armory property.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Patel?
Thank you. I just want to offer some color commentary on the Pikesville Armory project. It's a 14-acre site in the heart of the Pikesville commercial area that could be transformative to the rebound of the Pikesville commercial corridor. We went from a point in which maybe 4 to 5 years ago, we didn't have 2 dimes to rub together for the Pikesville Armory to a point where we now have $8.8 million between federal, county, and state funds. There's great opportunity right now in terms of activating the exterior of the courtyard. However, I will say that the state military department and the State Department of General Services has not been a willing partner in activating that exterior prior to any transfer of the property. It is public property because the state of Maryland is part of the public domain. We all pay state taxes. And so I would hope that the state would be a little bit more forthcoming with the community in terms of allowing that courtyard to be accessed by the public, especially for this summer, and especially now when we've been 2 years in this in the COVID environment where we haven't had a chance to come out, and in the heart of Pikesville, which lacks any communal public space. There exists right in the heart of the commercial corridor, this transformative and beautiful courtyard surrounded by historic buildings. So the county, I think, has done well. We've put in 2.1 million. The state has put in the federal government has put in 2.4 million. The state has put in 2.5 million, and then there's a Baltimore Regional Neighborhoods Initiative grant of 400,000, and I think the total is now 8.8. So we're making significant progress. We've just got to push harder, and I just want to thank the planning department. They've been helpful in moving this forward, and I think hopefully when we're meeting next year, we'll be talking about some of the initial phase implementation of the first few phases of activating the exterior, also the creating a sense of creating some construction at the non-commissioner officers facility. Those are the first two initial phases for the Pikesville Armory. So there's things that we can do right now, and there are things that will happen 4 to 5 years down the road, hopefully. But at some point, we'll have this spectacular place in the heart of the Pikesville commercial corridor that's not only a local amenity, but a destination place for the entire county. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me some color commentary on that project.
Thank you, Councilman Token. Okay, Director Blades, where are we?
Yes, sir. This is the last question related to construction costs, and Deb Schindel will respond before we turn the floor over to Dr. Williams.
Okay, Dan, construction costs.
Construction costs. So the real end of the conversation really becomes that, we continue to deal with the inflation as well as a labor shortage in all of the trades. This issue is driving up construction costs, so we are working with our design teams to value engineer projects when we can and adjust scopes in an effort to reduce the cost and stay within budget. The rising costs are not new in construction, but unfortunately in today's market, the costs are more than we would really like them to be, obviously. We are willing to continue to assess construction cost estimate at each phase of the design process. And when projects are ready for bid, we will use the assessments if funds are available to move these projects forward. If not, we will assess the funds that are available elsewhere in our capital budget to offset the increasing costs, and we will identify projects that can be delayed in order to fund the projects that are currently in the queue, or we may have to delay the projects altogether. So that's where we're at. I hope I'll take any questions if needed.
Questions or comments from the members? I suspect that every day as we move forward, construction costs hopefully is coming down, that some of the supply chains come back online. Director Blades, with Dr. Williams now?
Yes, sir.
So good afternoon, Chairman Jones and members of the County Council. Today I'm joined with our Chairwoman of the Board of Education, Ms. Julie Henn, and our Vice Chair of the Board, Rod McMillian, and several members of Cabinet particularly for this section, we have Pete Dixit, our Executive Director. Also, Tony Bazemore is joining us. So first, I would like to thank the council for your previous support in our capital improvement program endeavors. Our focus in the capital program area has been to provide additional capacity due to increased enrollment, educational adequacy, and the infrastructure improvement. There were several questions that were submitted, and I will ask Mr. Dixit and potentially team to respond to those questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Want to make sure you can hear me.
We can hear you.
So good afternoon, Chairman Jones, members of the council, and fellow department heads from the county side, especially Director Blades, who has been so supportive of our efforts. As Dr. Williams indicated, we are extremely thankful for your support for an extremely ambitious capital program. We received a list of questions and provided all the responses to those questions. I'm going to summarize some of the additional questions that we received later on. The items included in fiscal 2023 as it relates to my IPASS recommendations. So we have Dundalk Salers Point Technical Addition, design funds for Delaney and Towson High School, Pine Grove Middle School Addition, Southeast Area High School and Northeast Area High School studies, our preliminary design effort in that area, various site improvements, Patapsco High School Addition, and Northwest Area Career Technology Education School. In addition to that, security projects and some of the pre-K expansion that we are in the middle of developing a list for those schools. Some of the status of those projects that have already been approved, replacement of Red House Run Elementary School, construction is underway and our target date is January 2024. Dundalk Salers Point Addition is in the early stage of design. Pine Grove Middle Addition, again, target date is 2025, January opening. Delaney and Towson will be starting design studies very soon. Towson, we have already selected an architect and we are initiating our conversation with Maryland Historical Trust and County's Landmark Commission. We will be pretty soon advertising for Delaney High School design consultant. Pine Grove Middle School, Southeast Area High School. We started conversation with those communities, Northeast and Southeast area. Several site improvements project, Patapsco High School addition, designing, planning work will begin after approval of that. So this is a quick summary and I'll be open for any other questions you may have. The next question we received was impact of recent legislation and the expectation for future state school construction. So as you know, Built to Learn Act provided an additional $420 million, and we are very grateful for that. That will help several projects in the pipeline, expedite those projects. And in this year's capital budget of state, additional $80 million have been allocated, and we are in the process of developing projects for that. The other question was the Baltimore County ability to meet required the state match. So again, thanks to our county partners, in the past, they have always provided us the state match for the county match for the state funded capital projects, and we continue to expect that match if should the additional state money be available to us. Another question pertained to the efforts to mitigate the impact of rising school construction cost. And I was listening to Deb Schindel, my partner on the county side, and I will ditto what she said. We are always in conversation with experts in construction and engineering side to see what is the best we can do. How do we value engineering our design? And that effort is ongoing. We are also very carefully allocating educational spaces for the schools that we are designing in order to manage the square footage of the building. That takes a lot of effort. In our case, we spend quite a bit of time in preparing educational spec to exactly find out what is needed programmatically and what is the least amount of space that we can allocate to that. So that helps in managing the square footage. But finally, what Deb said, and I'm kind of in agreement with that, a major portion of the construction cost is dictated by the market conditions. So at the time of award a contract, it's in a capitalistic economy, it's the market that dictates the price. So in spite of our best efforts, the cost has been rising, in some cases as much as 10 to 20%. Some of it is with the supply chain issues, and we continue to be optimistic that it'll get better. The other question was about the enrollment, changes in enrollment due to pandemic. We have talked to experts in this area and our institutional knowledge in putting it all together. It appears that the trend will be the same as we had before pandemic, after pandemic is over. So a lot of parents have made other arrangements, including keeping kids at home, private schools, or any other arrangement. And our best estimate is that once pandemic is over, we are going to get those kids back in our school. The other question that I have is Northeast and Southeast area high school overcrowding. As some of you know, we had a series of meetings with Northeast stakeholders and Southeast stakeholders. This is our effort to hopefully arrive at a consensus. And once we find that, then several options will come out of that, will be presented to you and our school board and Dr. Williams for consideration. And whatever option meets the best need of education and has the consensus of the community will be part of our future capital improvement program. And the next question was about the time frame for the historical conditions and potential restrictions for the Towson High School replacement projects. We are extremely excited to have this project finally starting. County has been kind to provide us with some advance funding to hire the consultant. That process has been completed. Just recently, we have met with the Maryland Historical Trust and the county liaison for the Landmark Preservation Commission to share some of the concept. The future plan, as required by MHT process, is to have series of totally transparent meeting with community folks and all other stakeholders to come up with different options and try to arrive at a consensus of the option that we want to pursue. And we are excited about it, and we are very positive about it. That's the list of questions and the issues that I was supposed to address here. If you have any more, I'll be glad to answer that. Thank you very much for giving us this time.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dixon, yes, Councilman
Hatch, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. When looking at the school capacities and the number of students in each school. Dundalk and Towson just leapt out of the page with me because both schools are, at least number-wise, are severely overcrowded. And then I see Eastern Votech and I see the Carver Center, which are underutilized. I see Loch Raven High School underutilized, Eastern Votech, etc. Are the schools like Eastern and Western Votech and Carver not considered when the county is trying to resolve the issue of severely overcrowded schools?
So thank you.
Redistricting.
Thank you for your question. The problem we face at this time is to provide additional capacity. You are absolutely right that Towson and Dundalk, they are overcrowded. And because they are overcrowded, they are part of our capital program. Once the capacity needs are taken care of, then if there is a need and additional issues can be solved, we go through the redistricting process. As you know, in case of Northeast and now in case of Northwest side, we are Northeast elementary schools, the capacity issue led us to redistricting process. The same situation is on the Northwest side for middle school, and there is a redistricting process being planned for that. So once the additional seats are available, that's the time to start the redistricting process. And should there be need after those seats are built, then more than likely that'll be our recommendation to superintendent and the board.
So what you're saying is once the addition to Dundalk is complete, and I guess when the new Towson High School is completed, then the county school system will look at redistricting?
We are not saying we'll see the situation at that time. We monitor enrollment projections every year. At this point, the immediate need is to have those projects completed as soon as we can. And that's why they are higher priority in our capital improvement program. But the need for seed is a issue which we are going to face in future. The high school situation is somewhat similar to what we faced in elementary schools, but because of the efforts we all made with your support, a lot of those issues have been resolved. So we continue to be optimistic that once these projects are completed and the additional schools are in design. So as you know, there is the Delaney that is in the pipeline after Towson. And for Dundalk Solars Point, there are other schools being considered as part of my IPASS recommendation, which is the Sparrows Point area study that we were talking about. And there is an addition for your approval for Patapsco High School. So once you consider all of that, some of those issues will be resolved. And when all of that capacity is provided, maybe at that time, we'll bring our recommendation to see what adjustment in shifting the student can be made at that time. But it is too early at this time to be planning for that.
With Pleasant Plains and elementary school, despite the redistricting, it's still overcrowded. Was there any look at Cromwell, which is under capacity, to possibly include that school in Pleasant, to transfer some of these students between Pleasant Plains and Cromwell?
I'm not aware of that. There are educational aspect to it, programmatic aspect to it. but we'll surely, I'll let, I'll make sure that folks know about your issue, but I don't have the answer to that question.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Councilman Marks?
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Dixit, for your presentation. I appreciate the partnership that you and Dr. Williams and the school board have provided in helping the county government get these projects underway. And I'm going to preface what I'm saying by noting that I understand schools are expensive. New schools are very expensive. And as Councilman Quirk says a lot, and I completely agree with him, we don't have infinite resources. Having said that, I am concerned that the options we're looking at in the Northeast involve additions. You know, we end up building these additions that cost a lot of money, sometimes 3/4 of the amount of money as a new high school or a new school. And all we do is we cram students into a building. Sometimes we don't do anything with the cafeteria or the auditorium or the gymnasium. And I just don't want to repeat that in the Northeast. There is land out there in the east side. And even if it takes a while longer to build a school, I really hope the ultimate recommendation is a new high school, not an addition at Perry Hall High School or some other facility. So I just want to say that. I look forward to continuing to engage you all, and I understand schools are expensive, but I think the community would hold out longer to get that new campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Marks. Any additional questions or comments? Okay, carry on.
Thank you.
Sure. That it, Mr. Dixon?
Yes, that's it.
Dr. Williams?
So that's it for the capital component, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, I guess we'll move right on into operating.
I have Carrie Vivian from my office who will give the overview for the operating portion of the school's budget.
Good afternoon. The
Good
proposed
afternoon.
FY 2023 budget for BCPS totals approximately $2.3 billion and reflects an increase of approximately $202.1 million or 9.8% over the FY 2022 budget as adopted. The county's general fund budget for BCPS increases by $115.3 million or 12%, largely due to PAYGO contributions to the capital budget and personnel related funding, including increments and longevities, a COLA increase, and new positions. BCPS is helping to cover a portion of this county increase by dedicating $25 million of its fund balance towards the FY23 PAYGO budget. The special fund or non-county portion of the proposed BCPS budget increases by $86.7 million or 7.9%. The special fund increase is supported primarily by increased state aid stemming from the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. In addition to BCPS's $25 million contribution toward capital projects, the proposed operating budget relies on the use of $31.3 million of BCPS's fund balance, which BCPS projects will total approximately $47.5 million net of both contributions at the start of FY 2023. Please see Exhibits 1 through 5, beginning on page 2 of the analysis for additional details. The proposed budget exceeds the state's maintenance of effort requirement by $28.7 million or 3.2%. On page 7, our analysis notes that the additional county funding, high levels of federal and state aid, and budget savings due to greater than anticipated turnover provide flexibility to the school system to invest in staff and other resources. Put another way, our analysis shows that BCPS is challenged by a high number of vacancies, and as federal stimulus funds run their course over the next several years, BCPS will rely more heavily upon a sustained county and state commitment. Accordingly, the analysis notes that while budget reductions are viable up to $28.7 million, they should not be considered without a full awareness of the pressing staffing challenges the school system faces, alongside the potential fiscal cliff that may emerge in the next several years as the federal stimulus funds expire. Our analysis also has identified several topics for discussion that begin on page 8. These issues include the federal and state funding, personnel, impact of the pandemic, school safety initiatives, blueprint for Maryland's future and maintenance of effort, facilities, technology, watershed public charter school, and the operational efficiency review. At this point, I'd like to turn it back over to Dr. Williams and the council for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vivian. Any questions or comments from the members? All right, Dr. Williams.
So again, thank you for this opportunity to kind of respond to some of the questions that were presented. As I shared earlier, we have our Chairwoman Henn, Vice Chair Rod McMillian, our cabinet members, and Whit Tanliff, our Director of Budget and Reporting. Just want to give an overview. The budget, the FY23 budget, focuses on an overarching theme of people and progress, and it's aligned with our strategic plan, the Compass, our pathway to excellence. So as we transition back to in-person learning 5 days a week this school year, we had to refine our focus and provide targeted resources for our staff and students. So the proposed budget is centered on our core purpose of increasing achievement for all students while preparing a variety of pathways for our students for college and career. The challenges that we face over the last 2 years are similar to other school systems in the state and nation. The pandemic completely upended educational systems, and significant disruptions have impacted every aspect of our work. So it's critical for us as a system to intensify our efforts to ensure high quality teaching and learning for every student. The 5 focus areas: learning, accountability, and results. So the budget includes additional classroom positions and supports as students are needing additional special ed services or English language learning program. College career ready for graduation and strengthening our pre-K and early learners. Safe and supportive environment. The budget includes additional positions such as counselors, health services, and social workers. In addition, our response to the certain behaviors by creating our student safety assistance, training for our school administrators, and supporting our SROs, and of course the partnership with our Baltimore County Police Department. The high performing workforce and alignment of human capital. That recruitment and retaining of qualified and effective and diverse workforce is paramount. We're looking at a compensation package and providing financial resources to attract and maintain our workforce, building that climate and culture of our system, working with a company to help us with substitute hiring so we can focus on customer service, and then part of the blueprint for Maryland's future, looking at the national teacher certifications stipend and implementing that. The 4th focus area is community engagement and partnership. We're updating our website and providing information in different formats and languages, and increasing our student engagement and participation by hiring a coordinator of student activities. And last, our operational excellence, providing upgrades to our transportation program and services, focusing on facility needs as well as school buildings, and to continue to rebuild our information technology. There was a question regarding our ESSER funds, and with our ESSER funds and state government, through the state government, we have provided the following support. The 15-minute extension to the instructional day, looking at our needs of special ed at the elementary school level by looking at an IEP chair based on feedback from our staff and administrators, additional class support to provide instructional support to our students via paraeducators and teachers. We talked a little bit earlier about the recruitment and retention bonuses, compensatory education, continuing our virtual learning program, social emotional support, summer school programs, and looking at our facilities and HVAC. I will like to stress that we're committed to continuous improvement. As the external operational efficiency review was completed in September of 2021, there was a question about our efficiency review. The main objective of the review was to increase efficiency and effectiveness of our school system by identifying, prioritizing opportunities for financial and operational improvement. And so we have welcomed the recommendations from Public Works LLC report as a continuation of our efforts to improve outcomes on behalf of students and to work together to make BCPS a stronger system. So we have implemented significant cost savings focused on the operational efficiency, a reorganization of central office staff to ensure the effective and efficient provision of services and support to schools, and a comprehensive collaborative plan to improve staff morale, communication, and stakeholder satisfaction. We presented that plan to the board yesterday evening. Additional actions and measures on identifying the efficiency study are finalized, and we have already taken steps to address the Office of Payroll, Office of Certification, Office of Benefits, mitigate the substitute crisis while seeking permanent solutions, streamline and improve the onboarding process when hiring, increase staffing, and improve our communications to staff, families, and students. So the FY23 operating budget is very important and a critical foundation for us, along with the blueprint for Maryland's future, to ensure that we are providing an increasing success for all. The reimaging of the public education as a result of COVID-19 pandemic presents new opportunities for our school system to leverage resources and make significant investments that will, of course, bolster our ability to provide world-class teaching and learning for every student. So I want to thank you for your unwavering support of BCPS and commitment to investing in our students. Without the funding from the County Council, we simply cannot raise the bar, close gaps, and prepare students for our future. Now more than ever, we need a fully funded budget to do this critical work. So at this point, my team and I are prepared to answer any additional questions that you have related to our operating budget.
Well, thank you, Dr. Williams. We certainly appreciate you coming in today. And we certainly appreciate all the speakers who came before you. Director Blades and your staff, your team did a most excellent job, and we certainly appreciate it. And now, are there any questions or comments from the members?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Cat.
Thank you very much. Dr. Williams, I see that we have a projected unprecedented number of vacancies that are projected. I saw where we are working with Kelly Services to fill in some of these gaps. Are there specific areas that will be using Kelly Services? I wasn't aware that they could provide substitute teachers, and I don't know if you're using them for that, but if you could just explain that to me, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for that question. Absolutely. As we were doing our work and benchmarking with other systems, we have brought in a new chief of human resources. And what we found and the feedback from our staff was the process of actually getting substitutes into buildings. So not only meeting the needs when a staff member calls out and backfilling that, but also we use ourselves for professional learning, where we provide times, grade level groups to come together, content specific groups to come together and spend time looking at curriculum, planning, and doing the work that's necessary during the day. And we will backfill and have our substitutes to fill in. And so this service which is a great opportunity where they will train and work with our system to bring in subs. We're just excited that they help with transition of a pool of subs and to recruit additional subs. So it's having a pool, it's increasing the number of available and qualified substitutes for our system. We do have we do monitor the daily fill rate when we have substitutes. Sometimes, as you know, we've had shortages, so we've had to have some other folks to cover, including our teachers, our paras, and even central office. So Kelly Services provides a full employee life cycle that includes, but not limited to, active and targeted recruitment, onboarding, training, which is very important, and benefits and retention packages. We have found this to be a great resource. So by doing that, it will free up staff around that customer service. Earlier this year, and I believe I reported to the council, I was focusing on 4 critical areas as we were transitioning back to 5 days a week of in-person. One of them was the standard of excellence. So as we are utilizing these services, our team can now be much more responsive to our customers, which would be our staff. And so hence why we put forth this resource of Kelly Services.
Do they provide bus drivers as well?
No, it's really managing the substitute teaching hiring with our bus drivers this year. We really looked at the challenges or bottleneck of hiring by working with our county executive and looked at the physical and the time frame to get folks into the system. We also gave bonuses and increased the hourly rate to attract. We also did a incentive of a referral process. As current staff members were referring individuals, we encourage that by looking at some kind of a reward or recognition for actually encouraging. So no, the Kelly Services is strictly around the substitute teaching and classroom subs in the building. I think this will be a great resource for us.
Okay, very good. One last question. When I looked at the Maryland State Board of Education website, I saw a chart which ranked the schools in Baltimore County. And for Councilman Patoka's edification, I don't know, he knows that of the 20 top schools in Baltimore County, 10 are in the 3rd district. I thought that he needed to know that. But on a serious side, there was, I believe, one school that was rated 1 out of 10, a number of them 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10. And, I couldn't tell whether or not that was a pre-COVID chart or after COVID. I really couldn't tell by looking at it. I assume that the school system does have concrete plans so that we can bring all our schools up as far as academic performance. I'll just stop there.
So yes, I don't know exactly which chart. Sometimes there are different data points. It may be based on the niche report. It may be based on the Newsweek ranking of schools. If it's from MSDE, it's from 2019, okay. Which was the last official state assessment. So if you're looking at MSDE, it was probably based on that. We have not given the state assessment. We gave a fall quick assessment this year, and the students are wrapping up the spring assessment as we speak. Those data points will be available probably at the start of this upcoming school year. We sometimes phrase that as lagging data and not have accurate current data. So if you're referencing MSDE chart, that is probably from the 2019 administration of the
When I
state
look
assessment.
at the Pretty Boy out, we were at Pretty Boy yesterday morning to honor Maryland's Teacher of the Year, which was a great experience. And I looked up Pretty Boy, and the same rankings were there that I found on the state site. And I think you're right. I think they're very dated
They're dated.
results. So we look forward to the new data and to see the progress that our school system has made academically. Thank you very much.
I would just add the teacher was the Milken Educator Award recipient at Pretty Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Tell them what you got.
Councilman Quirk,
$25,000 you got.
25,000. That's wonderful. Well
Isn't that
deserved.
great?
Yep. Councilman Quirk.
Thank you, Chairman Jones, and good afternoon, Dr. Williams.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I definitely obviously echo Councilman Katch's concerns, obviously with the vacancies that are happening, and I mean, I'm definitely mindful that we do have a pretty great resignation, seems like, in the whole country. So I definitely understand that, but obviously anything we can do to be exceptionally proactive on the vacancies is important. And also wanted to kind of tag team with Councilman Katch. What seems like we're doing a lot lately, Councilman Katch, is the school buses. It seems like almost every day, like I get reports and text and emails from constituents that either their school buses didn't arrive at all, or that they're going to be 90 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes late. But it's not just once every blue moon. It almost seems like daily, because I just know, because my emails start, really circulating, and parents are frustrated. The hardest part with school buses that just completely don't work anymore, I mean, candidly, from just kind of what I'm seeing in District 1, is it falls disproportionately on working families. A lot of families out there, they depend on public school bus transportation. They have to get to their jobs in the morning or in the afternoon, and when buses just simply don't show up, or they're 2 hours late, it creates a lot of stress on everyone. I mean, the parents, on the schools, and I know that you and the county exec can put some decent focus here, but to me, it's really, really tough. I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but it's just something that it's a huge issue that continues to almost be a daily struggle for all of us. I didn't know if we were doing anything differently. I mean, I talked to Julie. She said there could be some things in the works. Julie Henn is doing a good job. But I just want to get your thoughts, especially on this clearly important issue. Thank you.
Yes, and we recognize last year this time, due to the pandemic, we weren't relying on our buses to transport students. Actually, we were relying on our bus drivers to help with our food and nutrition, and actually making sure we were having our kids have meals. And so what happened this year, it created this renewed focus again on our transportation. As we have reported to our board, the shortage is one issue, and then the call outs is another issue. And so we saw we're monitoring the attendance, but it also is causing us to really look at kind of our services that we're providing as a system, working with our transportation department to look at our services and what other technology that we can bring so parents and our school staff can have timely and accurate information. And so we had a work group looking, or stakeholder group looking at transportation pre-pandemic. We had to pivot because of the pandemic. And so right now we're looking at, as we would do every year, looking at those major bottlenecks, looking at how we can resolve some of these issues, how we can better communicate in timeliness with our communication to families, and what other additional resources that we may need for that. We are finding, and I think you said it beautifully, we're finding our families are now taking it on their own, sometimes transporting their own child before to work or after, or picking up. And so this is like really pulling back the onion to see how we can look at how to better service our students and families. Extracurricular activities also is another area that making sure our students have access. Many of our nearby systems are looking at other resources or increasing the availability to walk for our students. So we're going to first look at the communication, the bottlenecks of trying to get our buses to pick up students on a timely manner, the resources. The department have actually put forth some requests for more technology, more radios, more communication to schools and families, an app that we can utilize to help improve that. Right now, we're looking at filling our vacancies. Our HR has actually expanding job fairs throughout the year, and actually designated several days a month going out there and saying we're targeting paraeducators, we're targeting bus drivers, bus assistants. And so I think when we start looking at our compensation and package and looking at the work conditions and aggressively recruiting, our goal is to fill these vacancies so we can improve the services. But I think it's multifold in terms of the vacancies, the actual stops and locations, and the communication and application and technology that we'll constantly bring up in our budget, just the need to improve in those areas so we can lessen some of these obstacles that our families are facing. We recognize it's a little frustrating, Mr. Quirk. I've been out to our schools and talking to our kids, talking to our seniors, especially our seniors who are graduating, what worked and what hasn't worked. And so sometimes we hear some of the same sentiments, and we really want to work on it. And by the way, I wasn't trying to advocate for more student drivers either, but I do know that students enjoy that because of work experience. They can go to school and work at the same time. So thank you for that.
Mr.
Mr. Chair.
Wait, whoa. 1 second. I'll get you, Ms. Rogers, and then I'll get you, Councilman Mark. I wanted to pick up on one of the things about the buses. And I just think it's important to say, number one, I look forward to a day when we do have an app with the vehicle locators on there so that people can see where their bus is or get timely information if a bus can't make it. What I would also suggest is maybe if we know that we have shortages and we know that we're not going to be able to fulfill our obligation, maybe it's time to look at some rolling outages, so to speak, where you can give people notice that next week we're going to pick up your child 4 days a week, and we're asking you, and we're giving you a week's notice or 2 weeks notice that it's going to be on you on Wednesday because we don't have enough people to drive the buses, and we know we're going to have an outage. And so instead of it being sort of like a surprise, maybe it would be a little more manageable if you give people advance notice. And then the second part, and the big part that I just love is, there's no reason, I'm just curious to myself. We're talking about spending $3 or $4 million to put cameras on the buses to give people tickets when they ride around the bus. And this scheme was supposed to provide monies to help fund other things in the police department. And I'm just curious to myself, how's that working out getting kids to school? We got kids that can't make it to school. How is it working that I mean, does the cameras help get the kids to school?
So the cameras the cameras won't help. Yeah, but you know, we need to educate the community about our school buses and the safety when folks are boarding, or and so I've actually watched some scary situations in our community as well. So that's not going to help to get kids to and fro, but it's a safety issue. But I recognize what you're saying.
Absolutely. Thank you. Ms. Rogers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for acknowledging me. And Dr. Williams, I just wanted to add just a little bit of context to some of the work that we have been doing with respect to supporting your efforts to get more bus drivers. And Chairman Jones, I can add one little context to how the school bus stop arm project did have an integrated piece with the parent app. That was a part of the technology that was within that contract that would have allowed the implementation not only of the stop arm piece, but the app. So there was a piece that was slated in that procurement that would have addressed being able to use the parent app. So just want to say that. On the bus driver assistance, we all know that there is just a tremendous shortage in CDL licensed individuals. So back in the fall, Dr. Williams and the county executive asked our teams to come together to see how we could support one another in looking at the bottlenecks. So one of the bottlenecks was the time frame it takes to get fingerprinting done. So fortunately, we've been able to increase our resources around fingerprinting based on, as I said on other cases, we have other installations now within the government that are able to do fingerprinting. So I'm pleased to say that county government has helped the school system since December. We have helped the school system get 100 CDL pre-applicants their fingerprints and to get them aligned for their physical and any other testing that they have. We've done 100 fingerprints, which from a time frame context prior to doing this expedited fingerprinting process, it would take sometimes 3 months, 4 months to get fingerprints. So that's how we're helping. So we're in a partnership with the school system until December 2023 to try to help expedite the onboarding process, freeing up some of those bottlenecks. That's how we're working. One of the ways we are working in partnership with the school system to address that issue.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Councilman Mark?
Thank you very much. Not to beat a dead horse, but I'm sitting here and I get a message from Perry Hall Middle School that 3 buses are late. I get these messages every single day. I'm lucky that my daughter can walk home from school, but look, the perception is we're failing. We're not getting this done. I'm just going to be brutally honest. Parents are frustrated. They're angry. They don't know why we don't have an app that lets them communicate. They don't know why this isn't getting solved. And I appreciate everything that's being done, but I feel like I need to communicate what I hear from my parents, and they are angry and frustrated. And please do whatever we can to get this resolved. A couple of questions I have, and Dr. Williams, I thank you. I think you have made a progress on a lot of things over the past 2 years. One thing I'm curious about is, and you've talked about it a little bit, is background checks for new educators. Are we making progress getting working with the state on that?
So thank you for that question. That's a big conversation across the state that we could hire someone from another county in the state, we still have to go through that background check. So what we have, when I say we, the local superintendents raised to the state superintendent about how can we streamline that process, because that is another bottleneck that we have. Our Department of Human Resources and Recruitment, we're constantly recruiting. So typically we will wait around the spring to start recruitment. We have started recruitment beginning December, looking at December graduates. We're also putting forth to give folks agreements, or yeah, I guess the best way to say agreement. We want to hire you. We want to begin your career in Baltimore County. So it's almost like an open contract concept, because we're doing the work ahead of time. But that issue, it's my understanding there's work groups looking at that. I know with some discussion in the assembly, but that's been a bottleneck of trying to cut through some of that paperwork to get folks to come on board and to streamline that. And I do want to echo what Ms. Rogers said. That partnership, we saw the same thing with our bus drivers, and the team collaborated. So I'm hoping that we'll have some streamlined efforts across the state so we can cut down on that. That takes some time to get the references and background check of new employees coming into our system. But by having an open enrollment or open hiring process, I think we can time it to fill these vacancies quicker than ever.
Okay. Thank you. Looking globally, what are we doing? If you could just very briefly summarize, what are we doing to attract and retain educators? What do you think are what are the best practices we're putting forward to get new teachers and to keep them in Baltimore County?
So that's been the work this year with our office. So globally, I think the best thing to do is our partnerships with our universities. We have to go outside of the state of Maryland because the Maryland systems do not provide enough teacher for us to pull on, for all of the systems to pull on the same pool. And so we have strengthened our partnerships with our local universities to really kind of increase that hiring practice. We, of course, our locals always include our Towson University, Coppin State, Morgan State, when we're looking at more diverse students, UMBC, McDaniel College. So we really have to work with our higher ed to make sure we are producing. And just a plug that we do have our Teacher Academy of Maryland, where we are building that pipeline. And one, because your son is in the Teacher Ed program.
I saw you the other day. Yes.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, when we talk to our staff, when we talk to our unions, at the end of the day, they always come back to us around compensation and work environment, work conditions. And so we have put forth some of those initiatives. I think by addressing those two big areas of compensation and work conditions, I think we'll see more folks wanting to come, and even more important, willing to stay. We have had many staff members, 30 plus years. Folks get tired. After a career of teaching, you get tired after a certain point. So we do see retirements, and we understand that the last 2 years have been stressful for all. So I think as we focus on our partnerships with the universities, building within our Grow Our Own program, and then really making sure we are very competitive with our compensation and work conditions, we will see an increase in our or decrease in our vacancies, and an increase of folks wanting to be working in our system.
So the money that we have that hasn't been spent because we still have these vacancies, I don't know where that goes, but I mean, has there been consideration to using that to as bonuses or pay increases for existing educators to keep them?
Yes,
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, we're looking at, and we're going to be following up with our unions and folks. So we're looking at ways to support our staff members. We've given bonuses this year as a part of our ESSER funds, but we're looking at additional resources to kind of support and to keep our folks and to attract more folks. So yes, we're looking at a variety of ways to help our staff.
Okay. Where does all that money go that's not spent? Does it just revert back to the county?
It goes to our fund balance. And so we're going to look at ways to try to look at the list of things that need to happen. So I'm in conversations with our budget now based on some conversations with our board. So, you know, we have some more work to do. So I think we can kind of look at some different avenues to provide that kind of support for our staff.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Williams. Thank you, our board chair, Hen, and our vice chair, McMillian. There's a lot of good things underway. And again, I don't mean to get this bus situation, we just got to get our arms around, because it's the number one thing every council member, I think, is hearing about right now. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Mark. You know, Dr. Williams, I had recommended before, I don't know what happened, if you guys ever looked into it or not, but the idea of us having county employees with CDL licenses, for example, in the fire department, you look at their schedule, was there any efforts to try to come up with like an auxiliary driver force where when you need people at a short moment or short notice, this is not regular employees, this is an auxiliary group that have been vetted, have licensed, trained, and maybe they would come and work for you one day a week. Maybe they would drive a route if they were given a call, as opposed to having somebody being a regular bus driver, whether it be full-time or part-time. You look at a person like me, I worked for 32 years in the fire department. I carry a CDL license with every endorsement there is. I don't drive anything, but who knows? If you were to say to me, tomorrow we got stranded students, you've gone through this process, you come down here, you've driven this bus, we know you can drive, you're credentialed, tomorrow, can you help us out? You know what? I have time. The budget hearings can wait. I'm going to go pick up some students and take them on the route. I'm being a little loose with it, but the point I'm making is, have there been some efforts to look at auxiliary drivers that may be willing to come and work for a route or two or one day?
Yeah, so similar to how we were looking at our substitute teachers, you know, we do have some sub drivers. And yes, we will continue to explore those additional partnerships. That was many of the conversations we had with our county executive when we were looking at the bottleneck and how do we increase getting more people in, but also looking at substitutes or folks we can tap to come in. And to your point, as we see on the teacher side, you know, folks would mind doing one day a week. These long-term assignments they may frown about because they may be retired. But yeah, we're happy to continue to look at all different ways to kind of fill in these gaps when we have the vacancies and the call outs and all that we can do to fill in some of these vacancies. So absolutely.
Yeah, and nobody may not want to hear it, but I would really consider that idea of a rolling outage until you get to a place. I mean, in other words, if every day you know that there's going to be some stranded students because somebody's going to call out or you don't have enough drivers, then, you know, give some people some notice. At least those folks will know that, okay, I'm going to take my child to school on Wednesday and pick my child up on Wednesday, and that's going to ensure or help somebody else from being surprised that nobody's going to show up because somebody called out sick. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Any additional questions or comments from the members?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yep, we're going to go with Councilman Crandall, even though you spoke second. But I think Councilman Cash already had a lot of time, so he can go behind you.
I know. I think we've heard enough from Councilman Catch today, honestly.
No way.
Dr. Williams, thank you for joining us. When you took the job as superintendent, I know that you could not plan for a pandemic, a ransomware attack, and the challenges that you've had to undertake during your tenure. So I do appreciate the pressures that you might be under. One thing I want to throw out there with regard to school bus drivers is you may be aware, and forgive me if you already are, but CCBC offers a CDL training class, and that might be a connection that BCPS wants to explore. We just heard from Dr. Kurtenitis in her budget hearing about the success of that program. So that might be, you mentioned working with higher ed to create a pool of new teachers. Maybe there is a pool of school bus drivers that could be that could supplement the existing workforce for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you for that. We have been in contact with CCBC. We were looking. There's a particular issue around age and the certification, but absolutely, we have been encouraging our students to look at multiple pathways. So thank you, Mr. Crane.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Williams. And so I'd like you to address so yes, I think Councilman Marks, Councilman Quirk are on the mark that we're hearing a lot about the school bus issue, but the other issue, and this was is school behavior, climate, violence in our schools. I know this was the subject of a recent TABCO rally outside of the board meeting the other night. It's been in the media. Can you address what the plans are, or what has already been implemented to address behavior and discipline in our schools?
Sure. I was scheduled to actually give another update to the board last night, but the board meeting ran over and we postponed that conversation for the next board meeting. So to give you a little bit of a timeline, back in the summer, we were looking at the transition of kids 5 days a week, really making sure students and staff and families knew about the COVID-19 mitigation around the and also addressing, I'll go back to my 4 focus areas, addressing the social emotional well-being of our students and staff, that transitioning, school-wide positive behavior. That's the beginning of the year. We started to see not only with the surge of the Omicron, we started to see some behaviors of our students. And so as we were looking at our data, talking to our principals, we had to sit back and say, we have to reaffirm the expectation and access to community support. So the first thing we did, we had our town hall meetings just to talk about community engagement, what exists. The PTSA leadership joined in our student council. We wanted to have a collaborative effort. Then I had to have conversations with principals and say, these behaviors, in order for kids to learn, they have to be in a safe environment. And so we have to address the behaviors of our students. And I don't mean just, you looked at me the wrong way. There were some aggressive behaviors that we started to see happening in our schools. So we had many sessions with our principals about what their options are. We never said not to provide consequences, but we did say, make sure you have that support in the building within your staff, but also make sure you hold the students accountable. We deploy central office staff into buildings to support schools In some cases, there were some areas that were a little bit of some hot spots. Things in the community was coming into the building. I must say social media always has a play in this. We've done safety walks of our campuses, and around third quarter, we implemented this pilot program where we have our safety assistants in 20 of our secondary schools for additional eyes and ears and a resource to our administrators, but also a support to our students. We increase partnerships. I know folks were kind of advised not to enter in our building because we were all transitioning, but we opened up our building for more collaboration and partnerships with our local organizations. But we constantly checked with our principals to gather feedback. As we're moving forward, we're going to continue to build on our pilot of our safety assistance. We're looking at re-imaging, reimagining an alternative schools, because in some cases, our students need an alternative location to learn. That may include our virtual learning. We've always had our code of conduct, but we wanted to monitor the implementation of our code of conduct, and then we'll finalize our safety plan and training for our administrators during the summer. I do have Dr. Yarborough, who's on the call, that I'm gonna just see if she wants to add any additional comments about what we have done this year and what we continue to do for this summer and next year. Dr. Yarborough?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm not sure if my video is on. I'm trying to get that on, but thank you. Dr. Williams did provide us with just a timeline of what we have done and how we have responded to the behavior. I think I can share some of the action plans for our safety in this upcoming year. Dr. Williams stated we have started with the pilot program. Our plan is to expand to all secondary schools in the fall, grant-funded safety assistance to be that additional adult presence, and to provide de-escalation strategies and respond to emergent needs. We also are enhancing those community partnership opportunities. We're really inviting in partners from faith-based organizations, sororities, fraternities, parents, grandparents to come into the school with the training to provide support at those arrival times, during lunch, during dismissal times, to provide that additional presence. Additional social emotional supports have been put forward in this proposed budget, including additional school counselors and social workers. We are revamping our procedures to effectively communicate to our families. When families are concerned about bullying, we want them to have easy and quick access to what the outcomes were related to those investigations. We have already started a widespread information campaign to promote the use of the Maryland Center for School Safety reporting tip line in case students become aware of any concerns related to safety, so we can work with our partner agencies, continue partnership with our SROs who have been instrumental in supporting our needs, and really also during this pilot phase in those secondary schools, the SROs have served as mentors and guides for our security assistants who are supporting schools now. Increased understanding of the code of conduct. Some of the feedback that we are hearing from our stakeholders is that there is a code of conduct. However, there are questions about whether or not it is being consistently applied across schools. So we are increasing that training for our administrators, also making sure that our parents and stakeholders have access to what the code of conduct says, what are the acceptable ranges of consequences, ensuring that all disciplinary plans are shared with the community, and having that posted in the fall, revising our bus infraction reporting process to ensure timely responses, because we certainly want students to be safe in school, as well as riding the bus. expanding self-regulation support and strategies directly to students as they, are experiencing, some of them, prolonged transition and difficulties with returning to the structured environment for a long period of time, day in and day out. Dr. Williams spoke about reimagining alternative educational supports to offer more seats and access to smaller classrooms and wraparound services for students for a finite period of time in partnership with parents and schools. And finally, additional student-focused opportunities to connect and create a sense of belonging. So that's enhancing those mentorships, enhancing orientations, advisories, and other programs that we know have been proven to work in terms of creating a positive and safe climate for students and staff. And we also want our parents to feel good about their students when they're in school, that all of the focus is really on the academics, and for students who need support social emotionally, that we're providing that access to mental health professionals and supporting those students as they experience a need for additional support. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Williams, Dr. Yarbrough, I think that was a thorough answer to my question. I'm just going to hope and pray that these steps work and that we don't have to deal with weekly reports of violence in our schools. It's very disconcerting, I think, to all of us to learn about teachers being the victims of violence, principals being the victims of violence. I do hope that that Dr. Williams, I hope that those folks that are in charge do bring the consequences to the people, to the students that commit these acts. To me, that's that's the biggest lesson that young people can learn, that no matter what your action is, there is a consequence to that action. So I'm just hoping that the plans that Dr. Yarbrough laid out and the things that have already been implemented and things that are going to be considered this summer, heading into fall, I really do hope and pray that they work. But I do thank you for the thorough answer.
Yeah, just to add, again, it is concerning just to see how our young folks are responding to each other and to adults. We see it in our community, we see it online, and so we will continue to monitor, we will continue to implement, we will also maybe have to pivot and do something differently, and that is why we emphasize that partnership to make sure, I think it was mentioned earlier, our partnership with our PTSA leadership, with our school leadership, and our student leaders in the building, to affirm that, situations will happen, but the majority of our students are doing the right thing. The majority of our students are coming and asking for assistance. But there's some others that we have to continue to build programs and support and hold folks accountable. So, we plan and what we're doing this year and continuing next year, but we will continue to implement. And if we have to pivot, we will pivot. But again, it's that partnership and collaboration that will help. All the students that I talk to, they always talk about relationships. And so that's another thing to make sure our students are connected if they're having issues, who they respond to. But absolutely, we got a lot planned as we started this last marking period, a lot planned for this summer as we continue to roll out. But I'll have this presentation when I present to the board next month, and I'll probably will provide some updates to the community before that next board meeting. But thank you for that question. We recognize this has been heavy on a lot of folks' minds and hearts.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're more than welcome, Councilman Crandall. Councilman Getch?
Yes, thank you very much. Dr. Williams, did I read that the starting salary for a new teacher is $60,000 a year? And also, can you talk about the support that we're giving our new teachers?
Yes, so based on the blueprint for Maryland's future, the goal is to get the starting salary at 60,000 for our new teachers, new teacher bachelors. But I do want to say the support, we have several supports for staff, particularly our new staff. We have our new educators orientation every summer. Our local schools will have their pre-service week where they meet just with the staff. There's some professional learning that takes place. Our new educators orientation incorporates a litany of items and topics, curriculum, social emotional well-being, data analysis. We have a new teacher induction course. We provide after-school workshops. We also have a peer assistance and review program. New teachers will have a consulting teacher that will come in and coach and provide feedback, which is a part of the evaluative process, working as a third observer than the principal and assistant principal. We have a peer advisory program, and then many of our Title I schools have a staff development teacher, so that's like a coach. We do that for our new educators coming in, primarily our teachers, but our new educators that come in, because we want to make sure, you know, the study says the first couple of years may be the most challenging, so we want to provide that support for our new leaders. This also includes some of these supports for someone with experience but come into Baltimore County Public Schools to get acclimated with our processes, our procedures, our rules. And so we have a whole team. That's what their work is around teacher development. And so we're pretty pleased about that. We're doing the same thing with our administrators. We're having new administrator support programs similar to our teachers, where we're looking at our new principals, new central office administrators, and new assistant principals to make sure they're being coached and supported as they're entering these new roles. And so that's just a high level of what we do with our new teachers.
Aspect of support is so very important. Very important. I certainly thank you for letting us know of the programs in place. And I hope that the new teachers and new administrators and existing teachers will take advantage of it.
Yes, sir.
Definitely, okay. So, any additional questions or comments? Well, Dr. Williams, I want to thank you and your staff for coming, and I know you hear the frustration in the members. Believe me, we understand you are probably just as frustrated, and we know that you are working very hard, you and your staff, to address these issues. And we realize that you know, there's only so much you can do. You can't make people appear, but we are only asking that you know, I guess double your efforts and think outside the box, seek, you know, solutions, and we're right here with you, feeling your pain, so to speak.
Sure.
So, but our job is to represent the people, and you know, they've been beating on us, so that's why you hear the frustration from them. So I thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and thank you for your staff, and of course we thank the service of your the school board members.
Yes.
See them here today, and I'll give you the last word, Dr. Williams.
No, thank you all for the partnership, and we will continue our efforts as we work collaboratively. So I appreciate this opportunity to discuss our capital and operating budget. Thank you. Thank you, team.
Take care, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Chairman.